more diversity of thought yields better outcomes for organizations. That, having a broader range of people at the table gives you better inputs and better outputs.
Hey, did you wake up today and say to yourself, it's a great day to change? I'm Dr. Joey Fawcett, coaching you to grow people and profits by creating a positive work culture. Yeah, me either. But I know I'll change today. The question is, how? My guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast helps high-stake leaders and teams in fast-paced fields like healthcare, technology, law, and nonprofits achieve their goals for their customers and organizations in 4 essential ways. First, clear roadblocks of conflict and change resistance. Second, create alignment of leadership and strategy. Third, build skills to lead and team. And fourth, expand capacity to achieve results. He founded Wildfire Strategies, an organizational change firm with a vision of creating healthy work cultures that catch on like wildfire. He's certified by ICF, the International Coach Federation, as a PCC, a professional certified coach, and a CMC, certified mentor coach. Now, a word of warning about this guest. He may break out in song at some point during this podcast. So lean in, listen up, and let's learn how to grow people and profits through a positive wildfire work culture on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Hey, Work Positive Nation, are you ready for some change? What? You're not? Well, you're about to be, because Steve Sally is in the house. Welcome to the Work Positive Podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Dr. Joey. It is so much fun to be here, and I so look forward to our conversation.
Man, good things are coming out of today. By the way, when I talk about change, clients say, well, we know we need to change, but we really don't want to, or not sure how. My favorite dad joke statement is, well, the only person I know that woke up wanting change this morning was an infant.
Oh, I should have brought my snare drum. And I know I definitely have a snare drum somewhere in the house because I have the same sense of humor. So
yeah, there needs to be a wah wah button. Wah wah wah.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's what we need. But it's true, right? I mean, you do amazing work. By the way, Work Positive Nation, we've got wildfirestrategies.com in the show notes. Just go there and click, and unless you're walking the dog or something or on the Peloton. By the way, you can do it. You can do it. Keep going. But just go there and look through the site. We'll tell you more about what's special for you there. People don't wake up wanting change. How in the world did you start to focus on change? In other words, Steve Sally, you're a superhero. What's your origin story?
My origin story, well, it's crazy family. That's a big piece of my origin story. And I think, it's what, honestly.
Wait a minute. That's a repetitive statement. Say crazy family today. I mean, isn't it just understood that family's crazy today?
I think I've come to understand that that's actually kind of true.
Yeah.
I do think so. That there's a lot of that in families and how we learn to navigate those dynamics, how we learn to understand ourselves and take good care of ourselves in those dynamics is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when I think about change in my own life, and I think about being ready for change, it's, how can I feel confident in myself and feel like I have the information that I need. And so, when I think about, so going back to origin story,
Mm-hmm.
the unpredictability and volatility of the family I grew up in helped me to be calm in a crisis, to look for positives, look for opportunities, look for places and people who could provide me with helpful information, and to try to see the world from a place as a place of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big part of the foundation of how I have grown up seeing the world, and how I approach my work.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Now I've got Jimmy Buffett, changes in latitudes, changes in attitude running through my head. If it weren't for going crazy, we'd all be insane, right? Um,
Hmm.
wow, I appreciate your transparency around that because family is the first team we serve on,
Yes, it
and we
really
don't
is.
we don't get to hire or in some cases train. We are just thrust together. So,
Yep.
and seems like to me what I just heard you saying was you had to go outside of that family group to find resources that helped you begin to see opportunities. The change dynamic today is so chaotic, as you said, unpredictable and volatile. My friend Dr. Bob Johansen refers to the VUCA world, right? With
Yep. The
all the
VUCA world. Yep.
volatility and uncertainty, the complexity and ambiguity. And so I just feel out of control most of the time, Steve. And I don't like feeling out of control. I want at least a modicum of control. So, how do you and Wildfire Strategies help us to be able to move beyond our own family or team experiences of this uncontrollability in a VUCA world?
So I think about it in terms of what are we ready for? And I use the ProSci ADKAR model of what is it that we're aware of?
Mm,
What is it that we are? What is it that we desire? What is it that we know in terms of skills? What are we able to affect in terms of change? And how are we able to reinforce that change? So I
mm,
apply that. So in applying that model, I'm thinking about where are people right now? And where are we as individuals so that we can, I think, just to bring it back to practicality, we can, to understand where we are in terms of how comfortable we feel, what resources we have. We talk a lot about psychological safety, Amy Edmondson's work, and thinking about who and what is going to give us the tools that we need to feel grounded,
mm,
and safe. There's a piece that we don't talk about enough, in the workplace, and that is the elements of self-care of getting enough sleep and enough exercise and
mm,
eating and a healthy diet. And they're so basic, but because of this VUCA world that we live in, we tend to let those go very quickly.
mm,
We
mm.
don't sleep enough. We're not taking good enough care of ourselves, and we're not eating properly. And I think, Ariana Huffington wrote this book on sleep, and how, and just the importance of getting those basics so that we have the tools to be able to show up and um and do the work that we need to do every day.
Is sleep the one, you mentioned three there. Um, is sleep the one you see people depriving themselves of the most in terms of self-care?
Yes, I do think it's sleep. I think we are, and for two reasons. One, because actually, well, three. One, we're burning the candle at both ends. So we're
And
trying to,
starting a bonfire in the middle of the candle, right?
yeah, and the way, and I love that analogy. And the way we're starting the bonfire in the middle of the candle is through our electronic devices. We're spending so much time on them,
Mm,
and right up to the time that we're going to sleep, and right when we wake up, that we're not giving our brains enough time to calm down and unwind, which means we're not sleeping well. So not only are we not sleeping enough, we're not sleeping well. Um,
yeah.
so simple habits give
Mm,
us that, can give us back that, uh, a better sleep, which gives us a better foundation to be able to think clearly in a volatile world, to be able to, navigate a little bit better around or ask the right questions, or, um, you know, co- when you come from a volatile background, it's like, look for the safe adults, and I think the grown up workplace version is who around me, in on my team or in my organization, can help me uh have the knowledge that I need, can provide the the perspective that I need in order to be able to navigate change, right?
mm.
So.
Mm.
So, so really connecting with the right people, uh, and also being able to unpack what is, we do a lot of work in around team conflict and healing,
Okay.
and being able to unpack the frustration, the thing that has you stuck, is essential.
Mm.
Like really getting that space. It sounds like whining, or as they say, and it's not. It's really just getting some time to acknowledge. It's just the acknowledgement.
Yeah, acknowledgement is so very important. Now, when you say whining, you're talking about my generation because suck it up, Skippy was our mantra, right? When we were coming along, okay, stop your whining, put your head down, go back to work, right? But instead, the second, third, and fourth, and sometimes fifth gen with whom we find ourselves working today, they want to talk about it and they want to, find a way to work through this conflict. How do you, in the midst of these, may I call them intergenerational teams, you know,
Sure.
find that common ground for change conflict management to occur?
It's such a great question. And when I think about the teams that I work with,
Hmm.
um, generationally, they tend to be fairly homogeneous. So it's either an older generation, it's Gen X and Boomer, or it's Gen Y and Gen Z working more together.
Mm,
For the younger generations, there's a real openness, to having those conversations. And I also do it across, rather than thinking about it generationally, I think about it in terms of personality. And I think that actually creates the link across generations,
mm,
is to be able to think about, okay, what are the different personality styles that we have in this room, which really are, generation independent,
they are.
and
Mm,
then, and the communication styles that we have, which are
mm,
generation independent,
mm,
and use those as our places of connection.
mm. I love that. In my one of my recent books, "Open the Front Door: How to Attract Top Talent Today," Alex Seinig helped us understand there the DISC profile. I've been an MBTI administrator for 30 plus years, but man, that I think that's key and critical because it removes the gray hair, no hair kind of distinction from the obvious lack of diversity, shall we say? And
Hmm.
I'm just saying that out loud because you just said they're
Yes.
homogenous teams.
Yeah.
We tend to want to flock with our own birds, and so we want to attract people like that. And man, we're losing so much. But to take it to the
Yes.
next level, any kind of personality assessment you can use like that, or StrengthsFinder, Enneagram, any of those, really helps us appreciate and respect and play to a competitive advantage those kinds of diverse qualities that should be baked into teams but aren't. So
That's right.
let's say, Steve Sally, that I'm seeking to attract, I'm move beyond my homogenous team, and I'm seeking to attract some top talent to the team. How do I describe the kind of wildfire, right? The kind of
Mhm.
wildfire culture, positive culture that we're talking about here, while maybe I've still got a homogenous team behind me.
So I think it is actually starting with the kinds of assessment tools that you're talking about.
Okay.
It's looking at, and the funny thing is, we tend to overly complicate, where when you're a leader in an organization, like, you want to show, even if you're not doing consciously, you want to show people how smart you are
Yeah,
and
especially
how
if you're
much
an
you understand.
ENTJ, right?
Right, exactly,
Prove
right,
my
exactly.
confidence over and over and over.
Right, or an ENFP, as I am. Yeah, I said, like,
Uh,
like, you want it, right? But right, he's an ENTJ. Like, you want, and it's very common, right? Like, you want to show, and because so often leaders are promoted from, as our subject matter experts, deep subject matter experts, who get promoted into positions of leadership. They
mm,
come from a place of knowing as the SME, but
mm,
then they get to a place of leading and they don't actually know. They don't have the same, the need is different, the skills are different. And so there's you go to a more of a defensive posture to
mm,
prove and present what you do know. So to be able to open up a conversation around difference, and to say, we all have, so a simple tool like a disc or StrengthsFinder or or MBTI, so that we can just reference these different ways of thinking about our colleagues.
Mm.
That you and I are more extroverted, so we can go into a conversation and speak. Someone who's more introverted needs time to sit in, listen, and think, and come back to a discussion later, and maybe not in a group, maybe one on one, but their
Mm.
their input is as valuable, if not more valuable. So to coming in from a place of diversity of thought
Mm.
and diversity of experience.
Mm.
I talk about, I joke about crazy family, and it's true, and but we all have these different ways, these different experiences in our lives that are connectors across every kind of diversity. So, like, I have the crazy family link with people across every typical and diversity category, right? Like,
Uh,
it's a connector, right?
it's
Or
the
someone who,
tie that binds us all together. We
right,
emerged relatively
you know,
unscathed from crazy families.
exactly. And so having a when you think about, trying to create, yeah, so it's creating that safe space, and the leader
Mm.
has to, or leaders have to model that behavior, that it is, we are eager for new ideas and new perspectives, because it makes us better.
Mm.
And some leaders are able to tolerate that, and some are not. Some are too afraid.
Yeah.
um,
Wow.
and that's where coaching comes in, right? That's where, if they're open to that, and to the data that shows that more diversity of thought yields better outcomes for organizations, that
Mm.
having a broader range of people at the table gives you more in better inputs and better outputs.
Mm.
um, but they
Yeah.
have to, they have to be willing to come to that table.
Oh, definitely. Well, so often, and we're both executive coaches, so often they get brought to the table because
Hmm.
that Peter principle that you're talking about, they're an SME, and then they get promoted beyond their competence in terms of people skills and leadership.
Right.
And then after 3 months in, the team's saying, this person sucks. Can we get another one? And so then you or I get brought in to do a 360, right? Discover why they suck, and then get them to the table because of that performance gap. Scott Greenberg was on the Work Positive podcast some time ago. He said something that just startled me, to your point, and that is that people get promoted to a place of leadership in the way we're talking about it, was management or administration or whatever, and it's 10 years on average before they get any training.
Wow. Yep. Not surprising.
No, we've both seen the bodies littered, the size of the back door goes 10x, right? Because,
Hmm.
and it's all their fault so often. That's change in a system. So, how do we, maybe the answer is obvious, but it's not simple. How do we close that back door, or at least uninstall the revolving door and put a door on hinges at that door as a part of wildfire strategies with change?
So one of the tools that we have, this whole team healing,
Yeah.
we have this whole service around team healing, and one of the components is recognizing that there's, like you said, there is this revolving door, right? So you'll have a revolving door of leaders who are, they're brought in. The team itself, or the department, knows how to function without strong leadership, and
Mm,
they, in fact, prefer weak leadership, in order, because then it makes it easier for them to continue in the ways that they've been working.
yeah.
So the
Unchallenged.
very, so the very first piece is with support from organizational leadership to stabilize this department level, this mid-level leadership, to stabilize that group by bringing in the right people and supporting their onboarding through coaching, by creating the team at the leadership level. And I think what is often missing is that strong team of senior, in a hospital, it's the physician chief, it's the nursing director, it's the operations director. It's building that strong team and their deputies, so that they can demonstrate and signal to the department, we are here, as we are the leadership, we are not going away, we are not the revolving door, we are here and we need to move. And then they have an obligation. Part of strengthening that leadership team is giving the is giving the strategic message about, these are our goals, and this is how we need to work together in order to get there. So it's setting the expectation in a more explicit way than often happens in these environments where, like you said, people come into positions of leadership and they don't get training for very long periods of time. So they don't know how to set those expectations, communicate them, create the ground rules for how teams work together, set expectations of behavior, etc. So it's breaking those cycles by creating a stronger team at the top, and not in a punitive way, right? In an open and collaborative way.
Yes.
So that they are modeling the culture that they're trying to create.
And evidencing that by these
Yes.
decisions. You reminded me again of something Dr. Bob Johansen talks about in response to the VUCA world. So often we think we have to give certainty, but clarity is what we're really after. And that's what you just said in terms of that upper echelon of leadership. We're here, we're committed to you. This is the direction we're going. It'll be zigzag, but this is the direction we're going. Let me ask you a question. What if the key to growing your work culture hides in plain sight? Take the free Work Positive Culture Assessment to discover it. Get insights in less than 4 minutes that transform your culture so you grow people and profits. You just answer 13 simple questions and discover your culture stage, strengths, and personalized next steps. Get your free aha culture moment at workpositive.today. Go to workpositive.today right now. Steve Sally is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. As I mentioned a moment ago, wildfirestrategies.com is in the show notes. Also, his LinkedIn profile URL is there too. And that's a great way to message Steve and get to know him and all about Wildfire Strategies even more. So what are some of the challenges? And I'm going to focus in on a word that you dropped that I want to know more about, and that's team healing. What are some of the real life challenges that you're discovering in your work with your clients around team healing? Because that somebody listening just groaned out loud and said, "Oh, that's so woo-woo." But it's not. It's really necessary, I think. But you tell us why it's necessary.
And I'm so glad you said that about it being woo-woo, because it's a question that I've had over time. And what I've found is that when teams are experiencing toxicity, they get it right away. Right? Or an organization has a team with toxicity, they get it right away.
Or they're willing to admit a team has toxicity. So often it's like, oh, yeah, we're fine.
Right.
We're not fine. Yeah.
Right. And that's a piece of it. So when we think about team healing, I often say, when you have a bad apple on your team, or that toxic person, their behavior is information. It may be painful. You may want them to leave, and they may ultimately not be the right person, or a right person on your team. But I have seen time and again, when you give a team the space to look at what isn't working and let their voices have value, not to gripe or complain, but to then be able to say, okay, what do we need to do to move forward, and how can we create some new agreements to do that
Mm, mm,
and start to rebuild trust and verify new simple new agreements instead of yelling at each other in front of the client or the patient. We're going to agree to discuss the problem offline. It's incredibly simple, but the arguing and happens all the time. So if you take a very simple challenge and you find a different way to do it, to address it, and you're agreeing together to adopt a new behavior, that makes a lot of difference.
mm,
There's the work we're doing, and then there's how we're treating each other while we're
mm,
doing the work.
mhm.
So what is, so noticing that and creating some new agreements, simple ones. These are busy people. They do not have
Yeah.
time to stop their work and, in its entirety and look, look closely at every single thing. It's really picking the the behaviors that are going to make a difference and signal a difference
Mm,
in the culture of this team that
mm,
starts to heal. And it is very real. We work with a lot of healthcare teams, a lot of teams in law firms, in very high stress environments where they where there's conflict that never gets resolved. And so it becomes a wound. It
yeah.
becomes toxic.
Mm.
And that's deeply harmful to the performance and productivity of that organization.
And until it's treated, it's just going to continue to fester, to use a good Southern word, right? And
Yep,
the
it
infection's
does.
going to grow deeper and deeper, deeper till it affects the bloodstream, if you will. And
Yep,
then it's coursing throughout the whole company at that point
it
because it
does. It
went
does.
unaddressed.
That's right. And so that's why I named the company Wildfire Strategies, because I want organizations to have cultures that catch on like wildfire in positive ways.
Ah,
They're going to catch on either way.
I
But
do. You might as well determine which one you're gonna light a
right.
match for, right?
Yeah, exactly. You get to be intentional about and people want to get on board with making things better
Mm,
on their team. Even the one even the bad apple is
yeah.
telling you where they want things to be better.
Mm, that's that's immensely helpful and insightful. Yeah. Mm. I call them Eeyore vampires because they're Eeyore. Nothing will ever work, right?
Yep.
It'll never work. And they're vampires because when you go home and you're with the people that you love and you're trying to have a life, they're in the back of your mind and they're circling
Mhm.
around and sucking time,
Yep.
energy, and attention away
Mhm.
from those folks. But it's really the quintessential cry for help, right? We need to make
Yes.
these adjustments. And one of the things I've discovered, and you tell me what you've seen in terms of team healing, they're doing what they know to do or what
Mhm.
they've been trained to do, and really are crying out for an opportunity to grow more emotionally intelligent.
That's right. They really are. They really are. And if we can, and the other piece that's human about this is that
Mhm.
we all have ways of acting unproductively whether it's similar to that other person or it's our
Mhm.
own versions. We all do it. It's all there. And so if we can give the other person a little bit more, ourselves some more grace, and other
Ah,
people some more grace,
yeah,
and and create this, it's corny, but grace creates space, right? So it
does.
really gives you that opportunity uh just to hit the reset button a little bit.
Because we're all just trying to figure it out and doing
Yep.
the best we know to do in this VUCA world. I was an Eeyore vampire because that was the way I chose to be, but it was the way I'd been trained to be in
Hmm.
the career in that industry at a time. Until one day I just was miserable with myself and new wife, and it just wasn't working. And so I just came to that aha moment that you and I as coaches live for, right? That transformation began to occur, that there were other choices to be made. So grace does create that space in which we can say, I don't like my behavior any more than you guys do. I need some help moving forward. But it takes a very secure person to be able to do that. And in the midst of those common bonds that tie us together among our diversity, I think you put your finger on the pulse of something that's really, really important there, Steve. Steve Sally is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. So what are we going to find when we go to your amazing website, wildfirestrategies.com?
Well, Dr. Joey, thanks for asking.
I promised I would, so I'm a man of my word.
So I write a lot for the Forbes Coaches Council. So you'll see some articles that I've written on social groups, which is what I was just talking about before,
Right.
about ways that we think about toxicity on teams and team healing, team health. You'll find I've just been at some conferences for the National Health Service in the UK, so some perspective on what I'm seeing in healthcare in the UK. So different articles, case studies, some podcasts, and
Like this
that I've
one
been on.
going to be on there,
That I
right?
that exactly, like this one will be on there, absolutely. And this will be the one on top, of course. So
Man, how much is that going to cost me? Anyway. Well, that
yeah,
sounds like
so
an
that's
amazing
and
website. I love it. And then when we go to LinkedIn, we can message you, DM you there, and that'll be great. And
absolutely.
you're on the gram too, so we can DM you there, and just appreciate all the content that you're providing, the solutions that you're providing. So Work Positive Nation always wants to know from my guest, Steve Sally, what's one thing, what's your dot that we can do today, starting today, to create the kind of positive wildfire culture we're talking about? And as you're thinking about your one thing, because I know, you got so many, but you want to think about your one thing, feel free to sing your one thing, because I promised Work Positive Nation that you might break out in song. So feel free to sing it, dude. Okay.
Oh,
No pressure. No pressure.
I think the one thing is
Sing it, brother.
yeah, is connect with other people. Just keep connecting, stay connected, and stay connected, keep talking, keep finding common ground.
I love that. And creating the space to do that in a VUCA world is challenging. So that's
Yes,
simple but not
because
easy.
because we're all feeling alone.
Oh, wow. Have you seen the latest statistics on loneliness in work cultures? I mean, it's out the roof. I think it was like in the 86% or something,
Yeah, yeah.
reporting on loneliness. That's amazing.
Dr. Vivek Murthy wrote a book called Together.
Uh-huh.
He was the former Surgeon General, and as and it's all about loneliness and finding connection to people. And I think that we are all feeling isolated.
Wow. I appreciate the connection with you today, Steve Sally. You have brought so much value, both in just who you are as a person, but also your content. Go right now, Work Positive Nation, to wildfirestrategies.com. Links down there. Connect with Steve on LinkedIn, but don't just settle for a connection. Send him a message, get to know him. He's an amazing fella, and you're going to be glad you did. Steve, thanks for sharing your wisdom and your time with Work Positive Nation today.
Dr. Joey, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
I'm so grateful you joined our conversation about creating positive work cultures that grow people and profits. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn today. Just search for Dr. Joey Fawcett, or you can click the link in your show notes. When you send your connection request, mention you're a Work Positive Podcast listener, because I want to give you a free digital copy of my Work Positive Team Edition book. It's a $19.95 value, but I want to share it with you free because it contains practical strategies that I personally use with clients to transform toxic work environments into thriving cultures. We explore in that book how to create a positive work culture and we do so again in every episode of this podcast. Our LinkedIn connection allows you and me to directly talk about your specific challenges, so feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I personally read and respond to all those messages because I genuinely care about your work positive success. So go to LinkedIn and let's connect. Remember to mention you're a podcast listener to receive your free Work Positive Team Edition book. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Work Positive Podcast.